Welcome to Village in Motion this this Wednesday, May 22nd. I knew I'd say one of these days wrong. I'm Clint Lambert, and I'm the host today of Village in Motion. And I have with me two people to talk about our windows here at Green Spring. And I am so pleased to have Mary Sue Garner, who is a past president of the Resident Council and has been very active in the windows program, and Dan Ancona, who is a vice president and resident of our Green Spring complex here. Dan's vice president of Princeton Energy in Maryland. He's still one of the residents that works for a living every day, and we're very glad to have Dan with us. And he's an expert about ecology and environment and wind turbines and those kinds of things, and so we're very glad to have Dan with us as well. And this morning we're going to talk about windows and the project that we've had going on now for 4 or 5 years. Mary Sue, you were actively involved when we first started doing all this. I was president of the council, and Mary Sue was vice president at that time. And we had actually started talking about it in 12, 13 era, and but it came to real serious discussions in 15. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, during your term, we had a lot of residents coming and complaining about the windows, wanting to know why we can't get new windows. The windows just weren't functioning, lots of air coming in, and I'm sure it cost a lot in terms of heat and air conditioning.
Oh, yes.
And they were also hiring window people to come in and replace windows.
Yes.
They said, if you have a problem, we'll replace them. Well, that gets to be expensive.
Yes, it really did.
And a problem when they have to install them. But we as a resident council kept pushing it, put it as one of our budget items, and I think we talked enough about it for years that they finally said, maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
And so they did put it in the budget, and in November 2016 is when they started the first installations.
Right.
And I went back and I had taken a picture in my apartment and it had the date,
Oh.
November 28th, 2016.
Wow.
And they started with Madison Green, and that's where I live. So that was the beginning, and they're finishing up now.
Yes.
So
And in the interim, we have put in, over 5,000 windows?
a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I think over 6. Yeah.
Over 6,000.
Doors and windows.
Doors and
Doors
windows.
and windows.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
heck of
That's
a
a
lot.
lot.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and the other day, last week, I saw them installing patio doors in one of the apartments, actually reinstalling. I think there was a problem with the first set.
Okay.
So they're still here.
Yeah.
But the big trucks are gone now.
Yes.
But it was a 3-year project.
Yeah.
And they were always here, always working, and I think everybody had a good experience with the installation.
To me, it's the most flawless installation we've had on anything. I mean, moved right along on schedule in regards to it. The only thing was we changed a number of companies that were the installers. I think we wound up with 7 different installers, different companies of installers, or different groups of installers. But got the job done.
Yes.
And now maybe my wife won't freeze any more orchids when she puts them on the windowsill.
Yeah.
But we had 2 different orchids that were on the windowsill at various points in time that froze just from the cold air coming in through the old windows. And I know there's a number of residents, especially in Madison Green, that were complaining about actually watching their curtains blow way out whenever the wind blew. So
I had a neighbor who kept complaining, and so we went down and took her cell phone and I said, let's take a little video. So I sat on her bed in her bedroom, and the curtains were just blowing, and I took the video, and I said, well, now when you go complain, you can show them what you're talking about.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's not the ghost.
It's not the ghost, it was the wind coming through.
Also heard a lot of people complain about windows were so sticky that they couldn't open them, and so really
Yes.
hard to maneuver.
Yeah, because you had to get both hands on and kind of break it loose to slide it, and it was not easy thing to do in regards to it.
Yeah.
And then they just simply leaked all the way around the windows.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
bottom line in regards to
Yeah.
it. But we were a pilot program, is that right?
I think so. We were one of the first ones. There was another community in New Jersey, I believe, that was also doing it about the same time.
Okay.
But we had a hard time getting it started.
Yes.
they kept saying they're coming, and we've done this, but we saw no progress.
Right.
And they were going to install different sets in a couple of apartments so we could look at them, and that never happened.
Right.
But what they said is it happened in New Jersey, in that one. And I said, well then, let's do something.
Yes.
And I think what really got it started is that Alan Butler and Deb Doyle of Erickson Living,
Right.
the CEO and the COO, they came for a meeting here one
Yes.
day, and we brought that up. And I said, what's the problem? Why can't we get them installed? They kept talking about it, and it's starting, but nothing is happening. And so the next day, Deb was on the phone 3 different times with our director saying it'll be taken care of. And sure enough, things started rolling. And they had a glitch somewhere in the process. But thank goodness we got it going.
Yep.
And once she got it going, things moved.
Yes.
Sometimes too fast, but
Yes. But at least they moved.
they moved.
Even though they still had glitches as they moved.
Yeah.
I think one of the funniest glitches is the fact they assumed that all the Lancasters across campus had the same size windows. We happen to live in a Lancaster. And here, the entire backside of Maple Creek and Hunter's Crossing, that whole area, was finished except for this one window in every Lancaster, and they had to do a special order to get them back in.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so-
and at the beginning, they didn't realize how the old windows were installed. So there were some problems installing. They were. I don't know the technical terms, but there were parts missing.
Yes.
When they took the window out that they had to replace, and the box windows were especially a problem.
Oh, yes.
I know my next door neighbor, when they finally got to her apartment, the wood had rotted because she's on the top floor, rain coming down all those years, and so they had to do some rebuilding in that area. So that's why it took so long with the box windows.
Right. You mentioned different kinds of windows. We had the box windows. What we had is a show window. Is that the
I
same
don't
thing
know.
as a box window? Dan, do you know, is that the same thing as a box window, a show window?
Probably.
I would say yes.
Okay.
That's a typical different.
Different
Depends if
different
you're-
companies, different terms.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And with all of this, and then we just had the regular up and down slides that we can use and push out a little bit and get area in, those kinds of things, which has really been nice. And the overall cost is somewhere around $5 million, I understand.
I've been trying to get an exact number, but the bottom line on all of that is that whatever it costs, these things pay for themselves.
Oh,
in
yes.
terms of saving energy, and not to mention the mechanical problems that we've been talking about. But when I was still at Department of Energy, we used to say that the best project you can do is one that's going to conserve energy and is more efficient.
Right.
And
And you were looking in trying to get some figures as far as how much we were actually saving now, right?
yeah, we're working on that. That's not an easy thing to do, partly because it turns out that we did a number of changes at the same time. They did insulation in the
that's right.
ceilings, and so it's very difficult to separate which one contributed how much, and then you have to go back and figure out the number of degree days, the temperature degree days, and so it's a complex thing.
Yes.
And they're working on trying to get some statistics on that, but for sure it's a big saving. There's no question about that.
Well, it certainly makes people happier. It's a comfort level, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly right. From an engineering standpoint, I have a slide. I don't know if we can show one of the slides. Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh, wrong slides.
And that's an installation.
Why don't you do that first and we can come back to that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that particular slide. Well, there's 2 slides.
Here we go.
That's the box window next door to me. I took it from my bedroom window, and they were up installing the window there.
Yeah.
And
that's when they were using the cherry picker, and they would pick the windows
Yeah.
up and
Yep.
take them up.
yeah,
Yep.
they did for that. The rest of our building, they did not use the cherry picker. They
okay.
came from inside. But that's a picture of that same thing from inside the apartment, which I thought was kind of a neat picture.
Yeah, right.
And you see the men that are in there working, and they're tied down.
Yes.
The safety was there. We just always checked on all of that. That's okay. I'm looking up here at the
You can
picture.
see from the other monitor.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, on installation, there was 4 or 5 people that were involved with each installation.
Yep.
Yeah. Each one had a different job, and
Perfect.
yeah, and they were efficient. They were quiet. They respected our space.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They didn't want us to be there, but guess what I did? I
Yeah.
took my camera and I went anyway. And they were usually kind of cute when I would take the picture. You know, they'd smile. And,
Well, one of the reasons they didn't want us to be there was getting in their way, and just from a safety feature.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and having the window area totally open.
Yep.
yes.
They want something to go out the window.
Right.
They had ropes hooked onto them.
Yes.
Yes, they did. Yeah, there's
So,
I think they call it a T-bar that was outside the apartment.
Apartment, yes.
So, you know, checked all that out.
Yep.
But, there's the same, that's, I guess, that's a different apartment, I think.
Yeah.
But same kind of thing. It's just interesting looking at it from the outside and how they did it. And that wide window open, you know.
On the backside, because they could not get the cherry picker in, they actually used ropes and pulled up from the outside. And I mean, that was a job in and of itself, just getting the windows up.
This is the finished box window. And you see she has a beautiful view of the campus.
Yes,
Yeah.
very nice view.
Yeah. At Madison Green, though, they didn't use those cherry pickers until just the box windows. All the other windows they did from the inside.
Oh, okay.
We'd get up in the morning and look out in the hall, and we'd have a hallway of windows.
Right.
And they'd bring them through the apartment and then put them in. And take them out that way, too.
Right.
So they had cleaning up to do afterwards.
Yes. But they did it immediately.
Yes.
It wasn't left overnight or
No.
anything along those lines, which was really nice.
And Brenda Kuhn, who
Yes.
was the project manager at that time, she was often there helping clean up. She made sure that everything was done right.
Yes.
And she's since gone, and other people moved in, and they were in other buildings, so I don't know what happened,
Right.
but she did a good job of
Well,
that.
she was there, and then we also had a security person
Yes.
in each hallway as they were installing, making
Yes.
sure that things were as safe as they could be, given what was going on.
Yep. Yep.
But
We got lots of pictures here.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's
and that's a
Patio
door.
doors.
that's the patio doors they were finally got around to doing. And that happened to be a rainy day, but because of the awning, they were okay. And you can see they covered the furniture,
Right.
had little ladders.
Yeah, but again, it went very rapidly.
Yes.
They were very
Yep.
organized. They knew
Yeah.
what they were doing, and they accomplished it in a
That's
rapid manner.
that's Grove Terrace,
Okay.
and you can see all the windows they were working on that day, that top floor.
You know, what is interesting in looking at the installation, when we originally had the discussions back in 12, 13, 14, we were talking about the fact of did we want to go building by building, entire buildings, or did we want to do columns within the building, or did we want to do spots in the building as apartments turned over? Did we want to replace them at that point? And the bottom line is that it would cost us more if we did spots or if we did columns. It was just cheaper overall, less expensive to do the entire building
Yeah.
if we did them. So
Interesting.
And mostly they did it by floors.
yes,
And then the spots that were at the end to pick up on the ones they couldn't do
couldn't
at
do
the
it.
time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. They also made special accommodations for people who were ill.
Yes.
I mean, they really did. I had a neighbor who was very ill, and she was in a 2-bedroom apartment. Well, no, 1 bedroom with a den. The den had a door on it. And so when they did the bedroom first and put her in the den, so she was as far away as possible.
Neat.
They kept the door closed so the noise was minimal. And then when they finished that, they moved her back to the bedroom and then finished the rest of the apartment.
Yeah.
So they try to consider everybody and their needs.
And you know how they walked down the hallways with the windows, and,
Yeah.
and, you know, very careful in regards to it and how they lifted them and moved them. And the windows are not light.
No, they're not. No,
Yeah.
they're not. And we would. I mean, I remember getting up and saying, "Oh, they're going to do the windows today," and open my door, and then looked out,
Yeah.
and all these windows were already there. This was 8 o'clock in the morning. Didn't hear them bring them in at all.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are ropes that they were pulling them up on in this photo. As they were pulling the windows up
Yeah.
from the outside. Very, very good. The other thing they did is they did doors. They did the sliding doors.
Yep. Yep.
And I remember when the very first sliding door went in, it was in the Patterson's apartment.
That was the
There's
picture.
Their patio that
Yeah.
was earlier
Yeah.
in regards to it. And the negative is that the trim that went around it popped as the temperature changed. Well, they immediately got on that and immediately changed it and used a different framing that would not make a sound in regard to it.
This is the finished product.
Yes.
This is Crestwood Court. Looked really pretty. Took
Yes.
that picture just the other day. So you can see, you know, as we went along, you could see the windows, which ones were installed and which were not by the horizontal bar across the windows that opened. And the campus looks really nice.
It really does.
Yeah.
And those windows, what we have a 50-year
I
or
think
longer?
so. Yeah.
20-year warranty.
20-year warranty?
Right, and
Okay.
so that's what they're doing now, is that there still are some punch list problems that the caulking wasn't done right or something like that,
okay.
and they're fixing those things. But if something happens to one of the windows, they
Within
will
the next 20
replace
years,
it.
they
Yep.
replace it. Boom.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So that's a smart move.
Yes.
Yeah.
And hopefully, just like with most warranties, they're a lot shorter than the life of the windows. So
Yep.
hopefully the windows will last a long time
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
in regards to it.
But it was important to do both windows and doors. As
Yes.
if one of the things we at DOE we used to say was that in terms of efficiency for buildings, ceilings and the roof of a building is important. That's typically about 25% of the energy gets lost there. Doors and windows, though, are like 40% of the energy lost
Wow.
from a building. So it's that was a good move to do the whole thing and do them right. And plus the technology has evolved. If you look at the detailed design, it's 2 panes of glass with an air gap in between, and the transfer of solar energy from the sun shining in there, that air gap is a huge advantage. Plus there's a thermal gap in the frame, so that the part that's exposed to the outside, like in the wintertime, freezing cold outside, that doesn't get frost.
There you go.
Ah, okay. Here we have an example of an apartment building. Looks sort of like Green Spring, but it's not. In the foreground, though, is a thermal gun that takes a picture of that same facility, but looking at the infrared emissions from that building.
Showing you where the heat is and where the cold is, right?
You're actually seeing the heat, and the heat is in red or yellow. And if you look at the sort of small picture there, you'll see that the long columns of windows that run vertically there are red and yellow, and those frames. You also see some of the apartments that have their temperatures, this is a wintertime shot, they have their temperature set down low, and then there's other apartments that are blue that they must have their, maybe are not home and they've dialed down their thermostat. So it's really important to see where the heat loss is. Again, at the top there, the yellow, that's where the roof loss is occurring. But doors and windows are the biggest loss in a typical building.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
But
that's really nice, though, to see that and see the fact that they can look, can see where the heat loss is.
Right.
And I know that when they were doing the insulation in the ceilings, they did a drone flyover that had the same instrument on it, and they were able to see where the heat loss was and
where they needed more insulation.
More insulation, right?
Exactly.
In regards to it.
Smart move here. Apparently they had a lot of trouble getting permission to fly a drone around here.
Exactly.
This is the Washington airspace. so that was,
very
was taken care of. But from an engineering standpoint, this was a very, very good move on the part of Green Spring to.
So you approve?
Yep, I approve.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Yeah.
Dan, the cleaning of these windows is made simpler, isn't it?
Yes. We were going to try and bring one over here to show you, but they don't want the residents to clean the windows. The staff from General Services will do that, but the cleaning of these windows is much easier than the old ones. They have a locking arrangement where you can actually fold the window folds down, and then they can clean the outside and take the screens out and clean the other windows in the area there. So that was one of the design features that really was a big improvement.
And a real selling feature.
Absolutely.
In regards to it.
Yeah. But the vinyl slides make it so much easier to move from an operational standpoint. It's a big thing. Yeah, but one of the things that we were talking about the doors. One of the things people can do, a little tip that people can do to further conserve energy. A lot of our doors are double doors. One of them, you push the button and the door opens and
Right.
stays open for a minute or so, so you can get in and out. Often, the second door is a mechanically actuated. You push the little bar on there, and you can open
Right.
it, and it closes right away. For people who don't need to use the automatic door, it's useful to use the mechanical one, because that way it closes right away, and you don't have all the heat loss,
So you don't have that minute extra open.
use it if you can. If you need the other one, that's fine too. But it usually ends up to be a lot of air conditioning loss in the summertime, and lets in a lot of heat and
Cold in the wintertime.
Yeah, it's a small thing, but small things add up.
Yeah. Well, isn't that one of the reasons, though, that we added the interior door in Grove Terrace?
Yep.
Is the fact of the amount of heat loss that was occurring there because of the cold coming in directly off that north wind coming down. And so put the second door in and made a difference.
And that was another request from the residents.
Yes.
We pushed that for how many years? Probably, you were still on the council, I
Yes,
believe.
right, yeah.
So about 4 or 5 years we pushed to have that built in there, and it took a long time, but now that it's there, it really makes a difference.
Yes, it really
makes
does.
a difference.
And it's nice to go in there and not have grass and leaves and everything on the carpet all the time, because before everything blew in.
Salt in the winter.
Yeah, exactly. In regards to it, so very, very nice in regards to that. With our warranty, with what's going on with these windows and how easy it is to clean, what is the responsibility of the residents in regards to these windows?
Really, just use them. I mean, the general services will do the annual cleaning of the windows, and have somebody come around and climb outside and clean the outside of the windows, that sort of thing. They discourage people trying to fold that window down for fear of getting something broken.
Yes.
And so it's you can clean the inside of the window using Windex or one of the glass cleaners, and keep them as clean as you want. But the inside is really usually where most of the dirt ends up anyway. The outside gets washed down by rain, and
so the advice to the resident is leave the outside to management, take care of the inside.
Yeah, if you need it clean sooner, call General Services and they'll come fix it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Any other comments about the windows?
I think we've covered most of the things I had on my list.
I just think that everybody is really happy
Yes.
with the new windows. And a side advantage was the noise abatement. You know, when fire engines used to, not fire engines, when the ambulance used to come at night outside my window, it wasn't the sirens, it was just the engine that kept running would wake me up, and the flashing lights. The flashing lights still do, but I don't hear the engines anymore.
Interesting.
And it's so that alone, and you just can't hear all of the noise that you used to hear. You used to hear the trash trucks every morning. There were 2 of them. You know, I'm reading my paper and I hear these trash trucks. I don't hear them anymore. So I don't know if they're still coming or not.
Well, I live on the backside of Maple Creek, and we used to be able to hear the parkway all the time, especially in the winter with the leaves off the trees. With the new windows, we don't hear it.
Actually, now I have heard one complaint about that.
What's that? It's too quiet?
Too quiet. They can't hear the birds singing in the morning.
So you crack your window.
You can open the window a little bit.
That's right, exactly.
Very, very good. Well, let's switch gears here, okay? And given the fact, Dan, that you know about the environment and those kinds of things, what's this thing about plastic bags and dealing with that?
All right. Yeah. For a long time, the environmental subcommittee of the General Services Committee here has been talking about processing, recycling all kinds of things. Well, plastic bags are something that we've always said, well, just take them down to one of the local grocery stores, and they have a way that you can dispose of them. Well, a lot of people don't drive here, and so getting them down to the grocery store is a challenge. And so there is a program, a company called Trex, that collects the bags from the grocery stores, but they also have a program for schools, and they've been encouraging schools to collect bags
Yeah.
and then take them down to the grocery stores. What they do is they take them to the grocery stores. The stores package them up into big bags, and then they go to a distribution center that consolidates that. And eventually this company, Trex, goes around, picks them up. They actually chop the bags up in little pieces and use the bags in manufacturing of artificial lumber. You know, they make decking and the new benches.
The benches and tables that we have outside, right?
Those are artificial lumber, the
Yes.
same stuff. Yeah, so it's reuse of a plastic material that otherwise would have just clogged up the recycling lines. In fact, the normal recycling lines, they don't want bags in there because it tangles up their equipment.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when we decided to do a program here, we ended up teaming up with North Springfield Elementary School. They had a bag collection program. They were the only school that was near to us here. This thing was already going on. Their students were bringing bags in,
Right.
and they were collecting them. And I talked to the teacher that runs the environmental club there, and she said, "Oh, we would love to have some more bags if you guys would be willing to share them with us." So we set up the collection boxes here, and once a month, that teacher comes over here and picks up. Last month it was 12 of these giant bags.
Wow.
Yeah, stuffed full of
Plastic bags. Right?
plastic bags, and they run this program for a year. The school that collects the most bags, they actually weigh them and
Right.
turn in a report. The school that collects the most bags gets an award. Well, it turns out North Springfield came out this year. They were 7th out of the 177 schools here in the Mid-Atlantic area.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they had
That is
800
fantastic.
pounds of bags. So,
Very good.
so it's a great program.
So keep your bags going.
But please put just bags in those
Right.
containers.
And just plastic bags.
Just plastic bags, not plastic forks and spoons and things. Not cans and things like that. Otherwise, we have to go through and dig everything out of there, and which is really a mess.
Very good.
Yeah, so it's very important that people continue to put the bags in there, but just bags.
Good. Well, Green Spring's doing its share of making sure that we're taking care of the environment, decreasing the amount of energy we're using, and now working on saving bags, right?
Right, exactly.
Very good. Thank you very much, Dan. Glad to have you with us this morning and sharing
Good
your
to be here.
information. Mary Sue, it's always good to see you and have you on the show. Glad to have you with us this morning.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thanks. And thanks for the pictures.
Sure.
Those are great. Great. We appreciate it.